And now we will learn how to create new variables. We could use the generate command to create new variables from scratch, or we could use the replace or recode command that we learned in previous videos with the generate command to make new variables from the old ones. Before we demonstrate our first example, let's take a quick look at the data sheet that's open in Stata right now. This is the same data set that we have been working with for all the previous videos. There are only 20 observations and there are 6 variables. And now we will create a new variable from scratch. We will create a continuous variable using the generate command. When you use the generate command to create a variable from scratch, you have to set it equal to something, anything, when you first create it. The fields in the datasheet are not allowed to be blank. Afterwards, you can replace the specific values as you learned in the previous video. Let's make a new variable called hello and set it equal to the number 61. Well, that's very easy. Let's close the datasheet, go back to the command line, and type in generate, which is the command that allows you to create a new variable, then the name of the variable, then equal, then the value that it must be equal to initially. Hit enter. No error message. When we reopen the datasheet, we now see a 7th variable where every value is 61. Then we would use what we learned in the previous video to adjust the values accordingly. Let's take a look at a second example. How about example 2? Let's create a discrete non-numeric variable using the generate command. Again, you have to set it equal to something, anything, when you first create it. Now let's say the new variable is named goodbye, and it's equal, there shouldn't really be a space here, just goodbye. You're not really supposed to leave a space in the variable name, but it's equal to signing off. And again, I'm not going to leave any spaces, even though I wrote it out this way. When you create a non-numeric variable, the name of the variable, the value that you set it equal to must be in quotes if it's non-numeric. So it should look like this. Generate equals goodbye, generate space goodbye. That's the syntax. It's the command space the name of the variable you're creating, and goodbye initially is equal to quote, sign off, close quote. This tells the computer that this will be a non-numeric variable named goodbye. When we hit enter, we get no error message, and when we reopen the datasheet, there's now an 8th variable named goodbye, and every value is equal to the word signing off. Now, before we move on to example 3, there is something I have to mention about non-numeric variables. Neither the replace command nor the recode command that we learned about in the previous video will work with non-numeric variables. That's why in a future video we will use values and labels for discrete variables, because it gives us the ability to use those commands as well as many other reasons why we assign values and labels to non-numeric variables instead of just leaving them in that format. So let's move on to example 3. Let's create a new continuous variable from an existing one using the generate or replace from prior videos. Let's create a variable called dissatisfaction that is exactly equal to the opposite of the variable enjoyment. We will recode enjoyment without changing the original variable. So if we take a look at the variable, if we take a look at the variable called enjoyment, you can see that 1 through 5 are the numbers. And it's supposed to be that 1 indicates a small amount of satisfaction, and 5 indicates a high amount of enjoyment. But when it comes to dissatisfaction, it should be the opposite. It should be 1 equals 5 and 5 equals 1. And you will see that here when we create the new variable. So, here's how it works. The code is very simple. Just like we learned before, type recode space, then the name of the variable you're recoding, in this case enjoyment, spelled exactly as it is in the top of the column of the data sheet, space, open parentheses. Now we're telling Stata where enjoyment equals 1, the new one will equal 5. Close parentheses, hit a space. Open parentheses, where enjoyment equals 2, the new variable should equal 4. Space. Where enjoyment equals 3, the new variable should also equal 3. Space. Where enjoyment equals 4, the new variable should equal 2. Space. And where enjoyment equals 5, the new variable should equal 1. This means it will be the exact opposite of the enjoyment. When you're finished with recoding the values, you put a comma and a space, then you type the generate command, but in this case you have to open parentheses and then type in the name of the new variable, dissatisfaction. And of course, be careful how you spell it, because once you generate it, this is the way it will be spelled. T-I-O-N. Okay. So again, it's recode the old variable, put parentheses where the old one equals this, the new one will equal that. Where the old one equals this, the new one equals that. When you're done with the recoding of values, put a comma, space, generate, open parentheses, no space, and then put the name of the new variable. When we hit enter, we see 16 differences have been shown, and we get no error message. And when we open the data sheet, look, there's a new, I'm sorry about the typo in the variable name, but look, where enjoyment equals 1, dissatisfaction equals 5. Where enjoyment equals 3, dissatisfaction also equals 3. Where enjoyment equals 2, dissatisfaction equals 1, so I don't know, where enjoyment equals 5, dissatisfaction equals 1, where enjoyment equals 4, dissatisfaction equals 2, and so on. So we have recoded enjoyment, but we did not destroy the original variable. We recoded it and created a new one, so that if we mess up the new one, the original one still has the values that we need. Now in our fourth example, let's create a new variable called AgeCat that has everyone under 30 in category 1 and everyone older than 30 in category 2. This will not change the original variable age, but it will show you how we are using the replace command after generate. So here's how we type it in. We type in gen, which the computer knows is short for generate. Now the name of the variable AgeCat equal 1. And we just put in that line of code and we hit enter. Then when we look at the data sheet, there's a new variable, AgeCat, where everything equals 1. Now the second line of code is the most interesting. Replace, which is what we learned about in a previous video, replace AgeCat equal 2, which means we want to assign the value of 2 to this variable if and only if age is greater than or equal to 30. So this helps explain why we need 2 of these symbols. When you're assigning a value to a variable, you need 1 equal sign, but when you're doing a logical test, you need 2. And in a previous video, we needed 2 equal signs, and that's because whenever you do a logical comparison with greater than or less than, you have to put less than or equal to or greater than or equal to. Now when we hit enter, you can see 11 changes were made, and when we come back to the data sheet, you can see age is 2 when age cat is 2 anytime age is lower than 30, but age cat remained 1 anytime age was greater than 30. So this helped us generate a new variable and then replace the values after it was generated.